changes in the program. Clive should drive a Mercedes or a Rolls, and he should live in a house a bit bigger. Really, it's a bit tight, that house, you know. It's a two-storey brick veneer house. I think Clive should have his own practice and a wing at the hospital. And basically, I think the whole area should be landscaped around 22, his house. Yeah.
Right.
But that's all I do.
That's fine. Thank you very much. That's the answer, Helen. That's what he'd do. Last question. Pamela Burgess from Scotland wants to know if Neighbours is to be broadcast in Papua New Guinea.
Right.
She's going to live there for a year, and she thinks she can cope with almost anything, but not the lack of neighbours. So what hope?
Well, I really can't tell you if it's broadcast in Papua New Guinea. All I know is that it goes to the regionals in Queensland, which is very close to Papua New Guinea. You can either have the show sent up from someone very friendly in Brisbane, or build the biggest aerial in the world to pick it up in the highlands of New Guinea. I don't know if they're going to do subtitles or dubbing in Papua New Guinea, but good luck if you can understand Pidgin English, because I can't.
So a kind of enormous dish.
Yes, yes, a satellite dish.
Jeff Payne, thank you very, very much. And
Thank
like anyone who comes from Neighbours, you've been absolutely smashing and chatted to the folks beautifully.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And now we join Michael.
How could anybody say Neighbours is bland and boring? Over 400 calls and not one criticising the lad, Jeff. I wish I could get some of those for me, but there you go. Now then, as you may know, we have not got an open air on Thursday morning. Now, Thursday is our usual competition day, so we thought we would do the competition today. You may remember last week, Ken Dodd was our very special guest, and so we dragged the Diddy men into our competition. We asked you to recognise 6 famous faces under their Diddy hats.
We are the Diddy men, itty-bitty Diddy men.
First was Beckendale's Amos Braley, alias actor Ronald McGill. Next, Penelope Keith, preparing for a good life down the Jambutty mines. Larry Grayson was number 3, Ken's pal from A Question of Entertainment. A Diddy dancer at number 4, bubbly Bonnie Langford. And at 5, the man with all the answers from Blockbuster, Bob Holness. And last was Lulu, Diddy enough to belong to Doddy. And we had woefully few right answers, I'm afraid. Christopher McMahon from Denton in Manchester made a special effort to get all the answers completely wrong, as did MC Barnsley from Longmoor Road, Shirley in Solihull, who said, "I want to be Wally of the Week." It'll take more than asking for it to be Wally of the Week. Let us find the winner. We turn those round and pick out the correct card. This one is from Mrs. Valerie Stanton from Heightside Avenue, Newchurch in Rossendale in Lancashire, and she has got him absolutely right. Ronald McGill, Penelope Keith, Larry Grayson, Bonnie Langford, Bob Holness and Lulu. And for your trouble, this is what you win. Absolutely fantastic, direct from the Jambutty mine, so you can make all your own Jambutties now. Patty.
So sweet, isn't he? That's all for today. Our thanks indeed to Jeff Payne and to Jane Corbin. Tomorrow, John Simpson will be here to talk about his career as a BBC reporter and now diplomatic editor. So any calls to him. Also, actress Stephanie Cole, who stars in tonight's Alan Bennett monologue, Talking Heads, will be here too, and we'll be looking at the series Couples with presenter Dilys Morgan. And we'll have our very own special open-air couple. So any calls to any of those, the usual number 061 814 0424. We'll be glad to hear from you. Thanks for joining us today. Bye-bye.
Tonight at 8:30 on Radio 4, the former Director-General of the BBC, Alistair Milne, will be in conversation with Frank Gillard, talking about his years as the corporation's chief executive. The Lysanne albatross, or Goonie bird, is the centre of David Attenborough's attention in Wildlife on One at 12:30 here on BBC1. It's on a tiny coral atoll in the South Pacific. In 5 minutes, the focus is on Bodymatters. Now the news with Richard Whitmore.
And from the newsroom, the main stories at midday. The P&O shipping firm at the centre of the ferry dispute has just rejected an invitation for further talks at the conciliation service ACAS. The move had been instigated by the Seamen's Union leader Sam McCluskey as the blockade of channel ports by lorry drivers spread. Yesterday, Dover and Calais were almost totally closed, and this morning Dunkirk and Ostend were also affected.
The lorry drivers' blockade has effectively hijacked the whole dispute. Whatever the union, management or ACAS may say, no one will be taking vehicles onto these ferries until the drivers agree. And within the past hour, they voted to leave the lorries where they are. After 15 weeks of the strike, they say they've had enough. The Seamen's Union spent much of the night at TUC headquarters negotiating over the phone with ferry companies around Britain for the reinstatement of some 200 seamen who've been sacked for taking industrial action in support of the P&O workers. They were hopeful of more progress today, and they said that the lorry drivers' action certainly hadn't hindered them. But at Calais, where the blockade began, the drivers were stressing that they weren't supporting the seamen, and it was still foot passengers only.
The Pope is in Bolivia on the second stage of his visit to South America. He flew to the capital, La Paz, from Uruguay and climbed into the Pope-mobile for a 12-mile ride to the city centre. In the next 5 days, the Pope will visit 7 different towns and cities and make almost 30 public appearances. A strike at a big tractor factory in the Polish capital, Warsaw, has ended. It began yesterday in support of the men at the Gdansk shipyard. The protest by Solidarity supporters there continues. The number of people involved has now fallen from the original 3,000 to about 1,000, but their spirits are high. The South African-born British athlete Zola Budd is beginning her recuperation at her mother's home near Johannesburg after pulling out of all international competition. Her doctors say she's suffering from nervous exhaustion.
For weeks, Zola Budd has been under investigation by the British Amateur Athletics Board over allegations that she took part in 2 meetings in South Africa last year. She is under threat of suspension. An Olympic boycott was threatened by African countries, and at one stage the British team looked like being banned from the Games.
What she's had is a whole sort of chocolate box of charges levelled against her, and people keep saying, well, if this flavour doesn't suit you, try another one. And that sort of uncertainty has been what's tipped her over the edge.
Zola says she's very disappointed at what's happened. She hopes to run for Britain again.
And the next news is the 1 o'clock news presented by Michael Burke.
Good afternoon to you all. Yesterday, the warmest place in Britain, in fact, was Inverness in the Moray Firth with 18 degrees 64 Fahrenheit. And I reckon today it could well be the same story again. Lots of sunshine around up there this morning. In fact, there's a fair amount of sunshine across the country today. It stretches down from eastern Scotland right through northern England, down through the West Midlands in particular, Wales, and central southern England and southwest England. Most places are going to enjoy a fine afternoon. 1 or 2 showers breaking out though in the next few hours. Now to the east of that there's still a fair amount of cloud, but the cloud's fairly thin in some places, and it will begin to break up once again during the afternoon, except near the extreme eastern side of East Anglia and southeast England, where it could still be giving the odd spot of rain for the rest of the day. But most places in fact staying dry, I fancy. Now to the other side of the country, right in the west, over Northern Ireland, not too bad, quite bright, but over western parts of Eire, running up through western Scotland and the far north of Scotland, in particular the Northern Isles, here it will stay cloudy for much of the time, and there'll be further spots of rain from time to time. Quite misty too around those Northern Isles. Temperature today, well, I've already indicated 18 degrees in Inverness. I think that will be about the highest. There could also be 18 degrees down on some southern coasts of England too. Tonight, no frost anywhere, but there will be some rain coming back into eastern parts of England.
Now on One, we advise you to have a pen and paper handy so that you can take part in one of the sight tests, because there's more than meets the eye in Body Matters.
Hello and welcome to Body Matters. We're just wishing ourselves good luck at the start of a brand new series, so cheers.
Well, pouring champagne's easy if you're the right way up, which I am. No tricks this time. But during tonight's programme, we'll be explaining to you why it is that you can't always believe what you see.
Right, and over the next few weeks, Gillian, Graham and I, all doctors believe it or not, will be exploring the human body from all sorts of interesting angles, and where better to start than the eye. Now, this is easy enough to do, but what if the only way you can see is upside down? Now, our audience here tonight are expecting to have to do some pretty strange things, but one of them has in fact been given a pretty strange pair of spectacles that can only see upside down. Now, where are you, sir? Where are you?
Here I am.
There we are. Right, if you'd like to put on your spectacles, that's right, and come and join me here at the table.
Ah, where's the sign?
That's right. Just walk this way. Nothing to it. Here I am.
I'm usually like this on Saturday mornings.
I know the feeling. I know the feeling. Okay. Shake your hand. Good to have you aboard. Welcome aboard the show, sir. Yes, you've obviously had a glass of champagne already.
Yeah,
now,
just the one to see.
Step this way behind the table over here. That's the way. Okay. Behind the table. To the right. To the right. That's it. Yes. Keep coming. That's it. Right, now then.
It's easier said
Okay,
than
there
done,
you
isn't
are.
it?
Now, could you just celebrate your appearance? Now, just pour yourself a glass of champagne. There it is. Just grab it. There.
Ah, yeah.
Right, okay. Very good. Very good, very good. Okay, now pour it in the glass.
Am I drunk?
I wonder. No, the glass. Not over your trousers. No, in the glass, just in there. Yes, no. Okay, there we are. Very good. Now then, it's obviously incredibly difficult to see upside down when the world is completely upside down. It must feel a bit strange too. So if you'd just like to sort of hang on, you can take them off if you like.
Can I take them off?
Yes, if you like. Yes. Thank you very much indeed. Isn't that
Can I stay here or go back?
Just stay. Well, it's actually rather ironic, really, that Mick here was having so much trouble, because as it happens, it's upside down is the way we first receive light in our eyes, and Jill, I think, is over there somewhere lurking in an eyeball.
If you or I looked at that champagne bottle, the light reflected from it ends up as an image here on the retina. That's the back surface of the eye. Now, for reasons we'll go into later, although the bottle's the right way up, the image on the retina is upside down. And that's the way the back of the eyeball normally receives its image of the world, completely the wrong way up. But when Mick looks through his special specs, and the image coming into his eyeball is upside down, when it hits the retina, it's the right way up. Now, what difference do you think that makes to the way he sees?
Well, the upside-down glasses should help us answer that question, and we have somebody else in the audience who's wearing a pair of those glasses. Sarah, would you care to come up and join me? That's right. Seeming to have a little less trouble than Mick. And can you pour yourself a glass of champagne? There we are. Now, Sarah, as you can see, is much more coordinated about the whole business. How long have you been wearing those glasses?
For a week.
A whole 7 days. How long did it take you really to feel that you could move about normally and do things?
Well, on Tuesday the world seemed upside down, definitely, but now, Friday, I'm not really too sure, actually. I've forgotten what the real world looks like.
Actually, it's Thursday today. I think your glasses are confusing you more than you thought. What were your main problems with?
Well, eating was a tremendous problem at first. That was incredible. I had no coordination at all. I was like this and all over the place. I had to use my fingers. I was nibbling away.
How about getting around the place?
Well, walking was very slow at first. It's a bit better now. But when I was in the car, it's strange because if you're in the car, your body tells you you're sitting in the car, but all the cars in front appear to be upside down. So you've got the two conflicting senses.
Get this straight, you weren't driving the car.
I wasn't driving the car, but I've actually ridden a bike, though.
You've ridden a bike?
Yes.
And you could balance perfectly all right like that?
Yes, quite well, actually, yes.
Now, do you feel what you see now is upside down, or...?
Well, it's quite confusing, actually. Because after a week, I'm quite used to it, I think, now. So, it appears to be relatively normal.
Well, it seems as if your brain actually wants to see that upside-down image, which the glasses have reversed. And you're the one who has to cope with the problem of getting the two to correspond.
Yes, that's right, yes.
Well, later on in the programme, a great relief for you, or it may not be, we're going to ask you
to take your glasses off after a week and see how you fare with that. Meanwhile, thanks very much indeed for taking part in this experiment. Thank you so much. Now, it's interesting that a lot of people think that newborn babies actually see what Sarah is seeing, upside down. Now, are those people right, or have they got it the wrong way around?
Well, with me is Joanne and baby Christopher, and he's a lovely little boy. How old is Christopher?
He's 6 months now.
6 months. And is he a good boy?
Mischievous. Good.
Keeps you awake at night?
Yes.
Okay, now what we're going to do is to recreate the sort of vision that Christopher had from the day he was born up until the present time. And let's start with what he would see when he was first born. We're using stripes behind Joanne's head to help us, and as you can see there, we can't see the stripes at all. All we can see there are just sort of vague shapes. For one thing, you'll notice the face is the right way up, it's not upside down, but it's really very, very vague indeed, out of focus, and no colour at all. It's all pretty well washed out. Now, if we ask Joanne to lean back, you can see that she goes right out of focus completely. And that's because baby's vision is really only fixed at 30 centimetres, about that far. And so anything that's too far away goes out of focus. You can only see things really close. Now then, if Joanne leant to one side, you can see that baby follows with very jerky vision. Look at that, jerking all over the place, right? And that's because the muscles behind baby's eyes aren't really working properly yet. They haven't really got it coordinated. And that's why often babies of this age are cross-eyed, you know, sort of have a squint. It's absolutely nothing to worry about, quite normal. Settles down later on. Right, now let's see what happens at 2 months. And you can see straight away that the focusing is not bad, it's getting better. It's twice as good as it was at newborn, and the light and shade is about twice as good, and there's beginnings of a little bit of colour. Not a great deal, but it is there. And you can make out the stripes as well. And in fact, at this age, babies can more or less recognise their mums and distinguish them from other people. And they can recognise their dads as well, incidentally. Now, now, what about 3 months? You can see the focusing is really very good now. The light and shade has improved a lot. The colouring is much better. And at 6 months now, the vision is really getting very clear indeed now, there you see. And really, it's almost perfect colour vision, almost perfect light and shade, and focusing. And the stripes are really looking pretty good. And if mother leans to one side, you can see that the baby's movements following mother really quite smoothly. Right, now, the research which has taught us all this about the early stages of the vision, the early development, has been very useful indeed, because one thing we know now is that the eyesight, the visual mechanism, doesn't really become, as it were, set until about 3 years of age. It's still pliable up to then. So it's possible now to detect and correct visual defects at a very early age, Christopher's sort of age. So in the past you would have seen children wearing glasses rather like this. You can see that. Children of 5, 6 or 7 with these glasses. We can avoid that now, because what we can do now is to put glasses on babies. Here we are, here are a pair of baby specs. If Christopher puts those on. Now this, I think you'll look at that. What, isn't that cute? What an intellectual, you know. You can always spot the brainy ones at an early age. And it looks a bit weird, but actually it's very important, because it means that now if children can wear glasses maybe for a few months at this age, that can avoid a lifetime of having to wear specs, and maybe even avoid going blind in one eye altogether. Thank you very much.
Now, our eyesight isn't fully mature and developed until about the age of 5. But even then, we'd be well advised not to trust our eyes, because they can deceive us, and sometimes we see things that aren't there, don't we? Yes. And I'll prove it to you. Here and now with my magic wand. Watch this. Voila. You see that? Now, hands up everyone who saw something there. Yes?
What did you see?
I thought I saw a genie.
And, madam, what did you see?
A Buddha.
A Buddha? Something along the genie line?
Who saw Buddhas? Who saw genies? You all say, virtually all say, that you saw a genie. Well, of course you saw no such thing. It's true, there's a picture of a genie being projected by this lamp, focused about here, where my wand was going through the beam. But as it went through the beam, all you saw was a series of tiny little slices of the image. You never saw the whole thing at once. But the reason that you thought you saw it all at once was because of visual persistence. Now, this is where the eye and the brain hang on to an image for slightly longer than they need to, which means that you see the image after the thing itself has actually disappeared. It's the same principle that gives the illusion of movement in the cinema. When you sit in the cinema, you see the pictures projected onto the screen so fast that you your eye doesn't pick up the blank screen between each frame. In fact, when you sit in a cinema for the evening, you probably spend about an hour watching a blank screen. So you could ask for your money back. Now, let's have a look at the big eye again and find out how it actually sees things that are there.
Our eyes are the only truly transparent organs in the whole body, and that means, of course, that they're very delicate and have to be protected from the outside world, dust and fumes and things, by eyelids and eyelashes. The transparent bit at the front of the eye is called the cornea, and it's very, very curved indeed. And if you were to look at something, let's say that champagne bottle over there, light rays would be reflected off the bottle and then would zoom towards the eye, at the speed of light, of course, and then they would hit the cornea, and there they would be bent, because the cornea acts as a sort of prism. They'd be bent and converged through the hole in the middle, which, of course, is called the pupil. Now, around the pupil is the iris, which is very important. Now, the iris is called iris, it's Greek for rainbow, it's the coloured bit, and it's important because it controls the amount of light which enters the eye, so that on, say, a dull day, the iris will open right up, there we are, to let much more light in. And incidentally, if you're experiencing intense pleasure, then your iris will open right up. It's a useful pointer, that. Yes. Now then, on bright days, the iris shuts right down. It closes right down there, and that's really to protect the eye from having too much light coming through. Okay, now the next bit that the light strikes is the lens, and let's just open it up and have a look at that. Right. There we go. Right, now here's the lens, and this is the part that does the fine focusing, of course. The light comes through that, and then it passes across this central chamber, which in fact is full of a transparent, clear jelly-like material, and then it strikes the back of the eye, the retina, the screen, if you like. Now, the retina is very special because it's composed of light-sensitive cells, and when light strikes them, they give off electrical impulses, which then pass out through here along the optic nerve, which you can just about see around the back there, off up to the brain. Now, let's just go back to the lens for a moment, because that's very, very interesting. Now, unlike the lens in the camera, which of course focuses by moving backwards and forwards, the lens in the human eye focuses by changing shape. It's